Well, I just sort of was walking along here one day, checking out the fishing prospects more than anything, and noticed these drag marks that look like, to me at the time, looked like a giant slug had sort of crawled along the mud. I just noticed the way that it went sort of like this or like this, like something had moved along in an undulate fashion, a bit like an elephant seal would move along maybe. Well, I looked pretty hard for legs and I couldn't see much, but there are scratches around, but I couldn't really find any decent associated footprints. That's why I was thinking it might have been some sort of a slug or some sort of a shellfish.
This is a new discovery made on Sydney's northern beaches by Paul Cronk, initially in May 2021. Paul has followed up in June 2022 with a wider discovery. This area of shore platform has only recently been exposed because of storms and so forth that we've had since earlier this year. These marks are definitely trackways of a vertebrate made in Triassic times, that being the age of the rocks on which they're impressed. The big puzzle is where are the footprints? Paul is showing his find to Dr. Peter Mitchell.
And he's going forward about ½ a metre and doing a bit of a belly flop, so you get a pile of sand pushed up in front of him. If I come across here, you can sort of see that. There's one resting spot. There was the previous resting spot, and there's the next one. So he's gone plop, plop, plop across this muddy sand. And the absence of footprints is not so much that they're absent, but that they're exceedingly hard to actually see. I believe that all of these little straight lines are claw scratches, where he's been moving on soft sediment here and put his claws out on the side and actually dragging on the sands and moving himself forward. Now, it just looks like a whole lot of random scratches when you look at it from this point of view, but there are a couple of spots, such as over here, if I can find it again. There, where we've clearly got a radial pattern of one, two, three, 4 claws, it appears, and the animal dragging that way. And an even better one, there's more of those all through there, but an even better one was over here where we first started. Can we find that one? Yeah. On the same bed, just across a little bit of a broken bit of outcrop, we've got another body drag mark and a very distinctive handprint there in that position. And you can even see the feet, the hand is webbed to some degree.
Could you put your hand in again?
Yeah, pretty much. That's me doing the same bit.
And it's in absolute conjunction with the body form?
It's with the body form, and that's meaning we've got an animal that's about that sort of big. The other print should be here somewhere, and so he's 40 centimetres or so across the body. A bit unknown how long he is, but maybe a metre and a half. They're big. Some really nice ones there curving around, and there's tracks cutting over tracks.
See one coming this way and one going that way.
And then crossed by 2 or 3 others at that point.
This one actually crosses that one, and this one terminates there.
We've got fossil skeletons of the animal we think might be responsible for this, so we've got a reasonable estimate of body size. I don't need to look it up to see exactly what it was, but 1 metre to 1.5 metres might be a good estimate. For starters, maybe we can go up. For example, the belly mark there is 20 centimetres wide. And you can distinctly see the drag of it. Yeah. Again, there's claw marks there, which could be a single set. Yeah. And everywhere we see these depressions, where the belly is dragged, that rock surface has these little straight line fractures all through it. There, for example, there. There's been animals wandering around on this surface all over the place. But the rock above it hasn't got any.
No. There are scratches a bit.
And the rock below it, which is what you're standing on, also doesn't have any. At least not in any number anyway. What you're sliding on, I think, is that black shale. That thin black one there would have been mud. And I think they were sliding on that and leaving a depression in the sand underneath it, which is partly why the tracks are not readily visible. But I'm pretty convinced that all of these little straight line structures are tracks.
Claws could have gone through the mud and into the sand, so you're not seeing the print, but you're seeing the claws.
Yeah. See, there's that black shale again, just still capping the rock here, and there's a trackway there that goes through it. So in fact, we were looking for good footprints. It should be in this black stuff, and the claws have probably just gone through underneath it and scratched the sandstone. Well, it's still in the same unit. There's the black shale, and that's the sandstone underneath it, or the sand's underneath it, and there's another bit of a one here where it's pushed forward this way. A fragmented one there. This trackway is above the black shale, and that trackway with the algae growing in it is just in the black shale. So we've got a depth of maybe 25 centimetres of sediment in there. It represents a period of time in which these animals were living on this little bit of the platform. There's another one with shale pressed down into the sandstone. So it's just certainly a distinctive little spot. There's another one above the shale. They're getting pretty faint out here, and another curving one around there. If that was all I could see, I wouldn't be very convinced. But when you've seen the good ones back further there, and then you look at this, you say, oh yes, it's the same. It's Triassic, 220, 240 million, something of that order. I'm not sure. We would be, we're just above the Bald Hill claystone. So that puts it in stratigraphic terms, Lower Newport Formation.
Clearly this was an estuarine environment.
That's a really hard question, because these animals are sort of generally regarded as an amphibian. Amphibia in the modern world are only ever freshwater. I think there might be one exception to that, but we've got in sediments above us and sediments below us, we've got some evidence of marine conditions. Elsewhere it's all river conditions, river sedimentation, but estuary is probably a reasonable sort of compromise, yeah. Tidal flats, think tidal flats. This guy creeping around on it looking for some tucker. In fact, you've been in the crocodile country. Have these remind you of crocodile tracks? Yeah, I think that's a good analogy. Yeah, the museum's coming out in a couple of weeks' time to have a look, and hopefully this will all still be present, and they can take it away and do what they like with it.
Significant.
It is. We haven't seen any tracks as big as this in the Sydney Basin before.
This video was shot on the 22nd of June 2022, but within 48 hours, much of the site was again covered with sand.